Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Boccinfuso. I'm the Senior Manager of Compliance and Enforcement with the Ministry of Long-Term Care's Inspections Branch. Thank you, everyone, for coming out to the announcement today. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us. I'd like to call on Director Mike Moodie to take the podium and announce.
Thank you very much, Chris. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Moodie. I'm the Director of the Inspections Branch at the Ministry of Long-Term Care. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We're very excited for today's announcement. I'd like to start by thanking everyone who was involved for their hard work, passion, and commitment to working together for the benefit of long-term care residents. This passion and commitment, which is so important for success, is evident at all levels of the ministry, starting at the top. And on that note, I would like to now invite the Minister of Long-Term Care, the Honourable Stan Cho, to the podium. Minister Cho.
Well, thank you very much for that kind introduction, Mike, and good afternoon, everyone. It's always a pleasure to be here at Queen's Park, especially when I'm joined for such a great announcement by some great friends like Minister Doug Downey, of course, our Attorney General. And I'm so happy to be here to announce some really, really good news for our seniors in this province. You know, it's just been about 5 months since the Premier called me and gave me the great honour of serving as Ontario's Minister of Long-Term Care. And I'll never forget the first phone call I made out of that ministry, and it was to my parents, who are seniors now. And my mom picked up and she said, I'm really proud of you, work really hard, it's an important file. And then she said, hang on, I want to pass you over to my dad. And my dad took the phone, and when I told him the news, he said, you work for me now. And he's not wrong. I do indeed work for all of Ontario's seniors, and seniors, like my parents, took care of us. It is now our turn to take care of them. And that's why, after years of neglect, our government, under the leadership of Premier Ford, is improving long-term care in Ontario. We're building 58,000 new and upgraded spaces over the next few years. We're making major investments to hire and retain more staff. We're ensuring that more residents have ready access to more convenient care and diagnostic services in their home, the right care in the right place. And finally, we're making changes to increase accountability, enforcement, and transparency. So that final point is the reason that we're here today. I'm pleased to announce that our government has launched a new long-term care investigations unit that is now fully trained and in the field all across the province. We're fortunate to have many of the inaugural members of this new 10-member unit here at Queen's Park today. And let me tell you, these fine folks who come from a variety of backgrounds are the right people for the job. They are on the front lines, protecting some of our society's most vulnerable, and we're grateful to each and every single one of them for answering this hugely important call. To the new recruits, thank you. Empowered as provincial offences officers, their specialized training will allow investigators to lay provincial charges for the 11 offences under the Fixing Long-Term Care Act related to failure to protect residents from abuse or neglect, repeated or ongoing noncompliance, failure to comply with inspectors' orders, suppressing and or falsifying mandatory reports, and negligence of corporate directors. Prosecutions that arise from their recommendations could result in fines and even imprisonment. Up until now, our ministry inspectors were limited on how they could attempt to correct noncompliance. Thus, this new unit and its enhanced powers is a game changer for what is already the toughest long-term care inspection and enforcement regime in Canada. It will also act as a proactive deterrent to keep any potential bad actors in check. And it won't take long for word to get out. You do not want one of these investigators at your home. This new long-term care investigations unit does not replace nor diminish the work of our existing robust inspections program. Our investigators and inspectors will work in tandem to ensure Ontario's long-term care homes are compliant, safe, and healthy for residents. Over the last few years, we've been working hard to strengthen our already strong inspections branch. We've improved our proactive inspections program, implemented a new IT system, and introduced the use of new compliance and enforcement tools like administrative monetary penalties and reinspection fees. As of last year, we also doubled the number of long-term care inspectors across the province, and we now have 1 inspector for every 2 homes in Ontario, the highest inspector-to-home ratio in the country. I said it earlier, and I'll say it again. Seniors took care of us. We have a moral imperative to take care of them. Our suite of changes is helping protect our seniors in the long-term care system so that they can receive the quality of care that they need and deserve. I want to thank the entire Inspections Branch for your efforts in helping launch this new unit, to Mike, Chris, Kelly, the team. This is hugely important work that says we're serious about making sure we hold the standards in our long-term care system to the highest that we can to give the seniors the respect and dignity that they deserve. I want to thank our new investigators for all the work that you've committed to do and have already done to this date, and again for your willingness to serve. Your work is hugely important day in and day out, and it cannot be understated. And I want to say again to our new investigators here in attendance today, congratulations and thank you for keeping our most vulnerable safe, and for all the hard work that you do now and that you will do in the future. Thank you very much. So I think we're going to take a few Q&As now before we go on to the badge presentations. So I'll turn it over to Cal.
Yeah, we'll take questions from the mic. If you could come up, it's 1 question, 1 follow-up.
Hi, good morning. Sneh Dougal from the Trillium.
Hi, Sneh.
Hi. So residents and families who say long-term care homes fail to keep residents safe during the pandemic, they're in court today seeking to have a class action lawsuit certified against hundreds of homes. Your government has passed legislation that would make it harder for such suits. As the minister responsible for this sector, do you think such lawsuits are warranted given the number of seniors who died and were infected in long-term care homes during the pandemic?
So thank you, Sneh. You know, when you mention the pandemic, it's something that we need to talk about, right? I mean, we saw what it did here in Ontario to a system that had, frankly, been neglected for decades and decades. I'm talking about not building capacity. I'm talking about not investing into health, human resources. And that was a trend around the world. I mean, we really saw what a difficult time that was the pandemic could do to a system when you had ignored it. That's why we said we're changing all of that. And it's not just with what I mentioned earlier about building and redeveloping 58,000 new homes. It's about nearly $5 billion in investment to health, human resources to make sure that these are indeed homes. It's not enough just to build the building, beds or furniture. We need to make sure that we have PSWs, the nurses who actually care for our seniors, that make this a home. You know, we have learned lessons from the pandemic, and I think around the world, responsible governments have done just that. It is this government that has said we are taking action on those difficult times to make sure we have a robust system that actually cares for our seniors. And let's remember, Sneh, that we have an aging population and that the growing capacity needs on long-term care are not lost on this government. We're making sure we invest in that today.
If these suits are successful, are you concerned about the impact that this could have on the province's long-term care sector if you have major long-term care companies having to pay out millions in damages?
Sneh, one of the first things we did 5 months ago when I took on this great privilege of serving was to go through the ministry finances line by line to see where the actual capital dollars had been committed. It is a stark contrast to what had been the norm for long-term care for many decades before, which was just no resources. This is a $10 billion capital plan. It is the most aggressive building program we have seen in this country's history when it comes to building long-term care. But I also mentioned that $4.9 billion into health human resources. That's equally as important because it's not just going to train new PSWs and nurses, it's going to incent those healthcare workers to stay in the sector itself. Just a couple of weeks ago, I announced $300 million to provide over $25,000 for PSWs who are in school in their placements with an allowance there. If you stay in the sector for 12 months, a further allowance of $12,000. Or if you work in 12 months for a rural or northern community, community another $12,000 to make sure that you are incented to stay within the program. Those figures are meaningful. $25,000 in total of supports for PSWs, as well as the ability for PSWs to scale up their skills within the system to become registered nurses to become registered practical nurses. These are important steps to making sure that we address the challenges that we learned from the difficult times that was the pandemic. And we have a moral imperative to do so, as I said, because as difficult as the pandemic was, we learn lessons from that, and we understand with the growing senior population, the time to continue investing is right now. Let's not repeat the mistakes of the past. Thank you.
Jamie with City TV.
Okay.
Minister, can you go into more detail about the actual offenses? I know there's 11, but then like every speeding ticket or whatever, there's a minimum and maximum, and is whether it's a criminal charge or not. Can you
Sure.
explain the minimum and maximum, and who will actually receive these offenses?
Okay, thank you, Jamie. I'm going to turn it over to Director Mike Moodie in a second, but I hope that these fine individuals behind me, these investigators, are never called on. They are here to strengthen what is already a strong system when it comes to holding bad actors to account. These individuals here, highly trained individuals, are held and needed only when the worst of the worst occurs, and as I said, we hope that never happens. But the process itself, of course, is independent of government. And to talk about that process, I'll call Director Moodie to share some more details.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. There's a variety of different offenses underneath the legislation. There's currently 11 in the Fixing Long-Term Care Act. They range from anywhere from a duty to protect, for example, or failing to comply with orders, or whistleblowing protection, which we know is very important for the integrity of the system. There is a penalty structure within the legislation that a justice of the peace or judge can use when it relates to the sentencing that might happen. And we have fines from about $200,000 for first offense up to $400,000 for subsequent repeated offenses. And depending on the charge, or depending on the offense, would relate to who gets the charge, right? It could be an individual or it could be the operator themselves.
When you say operator, you mean CEOs or people on the board or
Yeah, corporate directors is one of the offenses underneath the legislation, as well as the operator and the licensees themselves. And thank you.
Thank you very much.
Didn't want to burn, sorry. Clarifying that might have burned my second question. The next question is this going to flow through the traditional criminal court system, or is this going to be outside of the court system in its own judiciary?
Yeah, thank you. So it's within the provincial court system, not the criminal court system, so underneath the provincial court jurisdiction.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Okay, now it's my pleasure to call up Kelly McCaslin, Assistant Deputy Minister, for the exciting time. We're going to hand out some badges. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you for the introduction. Today's announcement marks an important milestone for long-term care home residents, Ontarians, and the Ministry of Long-Term Care. It took a lot of work and planning to get us to this point. I know it will pay off in the weeks and months ahead. The creation of this new investigations unit is a great example of the ministry adapting to the changing needs of the long-term care sector and responding to the feedback that we have heard from residents, families, and stakeholders. We were told that we needed better enforcement tools to protect residents and hold operators to account for serious cases of noncompliance. It's an honor for me to be here today to announce that we are taking this important step towards stronger enforcement and greater accountability in long-term care. It is also a great honor for me to officially present our new investigators with their badges, which I'll do at this time. First, I would like to present to Director Mike Moodie. Congratulations, Mike. And Senior Manager Chris Boccinfuso. And now for our investigators. Nora Asser. Sherry Cook. Jeff Letson. Angela Johnson. Amanda Nixon. Katie Thomas. And Devin Saunders. With that, I want to offer my sincere congratulations to our new investigators and to all the staff who have worked so hard to get us to this point. I am so very proud to stand among the many dedicated individuals who have stepped forward to help drive quality through better accountability, enforcement, and transparency for our seniors. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
All right. Thank you, everyone.